For millennia, the galaxy had an empty throne. It was not just a seat. It was a legend carved from dead stars and forgotten gods. Floating at the center of a broken system, it stood upon a platform of obsidian and light, surrounded by the echoes of civilizations long gone. Every 1,000 years, some emperor, prophet, or conqueror would come to claim it. Every single one turned to dust before their body even touched the cold armrest. The galactic throne was said to reject the unworthy. Over time, the great species stopped trying. The Seraphids, who once built cities inside suns, said the throne belonged to no living race. The Vorn, beings of metal and memory, declared it cursed. The Tli, masters of psionic power, called it a cruel joke from the first gods. And so, the seat remained untouched, a reminder of power no one deserved. Then came the humans. They were a young race. Loud, impatient, emotional. They argued over everything, fought each other constantly, and laughed while doing it. When humanity entered the galactic scene, they were treated like a child wandering into a council of ancient kings. The elder races found them amusing and irritating. At the first Galactic Council meeting, the Seraphid High Speaker had leaned forward and said, "Your kind has only just learned to walk among the stars. You think you belong here." The human ambassador had smiled. "We're already here, aren't we?" That answer, so simple and bold, spread through the halls like a virus. Some aliens found it charming, most found it offensive. But the humans didn't stop. They expanded fast, too fast. Their ships weren't as elegant as Seraphid vessels, nor as advanced as Vorn dreadnoughts, but they were stubbornly efficient. They broke every law of galactic diplomacy, every border rule, every unwritten understanding that said, "Stay in your lane." The Council tried warnings, then sanctions, then military pressure. It didn't matter. Every time someone blocked a human colony, another 10 appeared somewhere else. Every time they were banned from a region, they built cities in the uncharted void. When the Tli accused them of violating ancestral sectors, a human diplomat replied, "Funny, we didn't see any ancestors around." They laughed in the face of ancient power, not out of arrogance, but defiance. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or biology. It was the simple refusal to bow. And somewhere deep in the dark archives of the Council, rumors began to stir again. Whispers of the empty throne. The aliens dismissed it as myth. But the humans, they started looking. Explorers vanished into forgotten starfields, following half-decayed coordinates from old alien tombs. They studied the languages of extinct empires, mapped anomalies where physics bent like glass. To the other races, it seemed foolish, a suicidal obsession. But to the humans, it was destiny. Among them was Captain Marakeen, a fleet commander known for disobeying orders and surviving anyway. She had fought in the siege of Titan's Rim, the battle where 3 human ships held off 40 alien cruisers for 12 days. She'd seen friends burned alive by plasma fire and still smiled in the victory photo. When she heard of the galactic throne, she didn't laugh like the others. She just said, "Someone got to sit there eventually. Might as well be us." The aliens mocked the idea. The Vorn Syndicate broadcast a statement. "Human ambition is a disease that must burn itself out before it infects the stars." The Seraphid High Priest said during a sermon, "The fleshborn believe themselves divine. Soon, the stars will remind them of their place." But something strange happened. Every attempt to suppress humanity's expansion only made them stronger. Every blockade became a challenge. Every insult became a reason to fight harder. When humans were denied access to the core archives, they built their own. When they were banned from the deep hyperspace lanes, they forged new ones through unstable wormholes. Many died, thousands, even millions. But humanity kept going. They weren't chasing power, they were chasing meaning. The throne became a symbol not of rule but of defiance. It was the galaxy's ultimate challenge. The universe itself seemed to say, "You're not worthy." And humanity replied, "Watch us." Over the centuries, the legend grew louder. Human poets called it the throne of silence. Soldiers joked that it was the only chair worth dying for. And deep within the Terran archives, the phrase began to appear in military sigils, mission codes, even battle songs. "One day we sit." That simple phrase carried through generations. It became a promise, a prophecy whispered through the blood and dust of countless wars. By the time the alien races noticed how far the humans had spread, it was too late. The outer sectors were filled with Terran colonies. The council met in panic, arguing about sanctions and containment. The Seraphid speaker warned, "If they find the throne, they will unmake the balance of all life." But deep down, they all knew the truth. Balance was already gone. In the shadows between stars, in ships running silent through the void, human captains hunted for something the galaxy had forgotten, a seat that judged worth by fire, not by birth. And far away, in the dead heart of a sunless system, the throne waited. It pulsed once faintly, as if it had heard the approaching heartbeat of a species that had never known when to quit. The galaxy didn't realize it yet, but history was moving again. And this time, it marched to a human rhythm. The Galactic Council chamber was older than any human city. Its walls shimmered with energy drawn from the first stars. Every race that had ever ruled sat there, tall, graceful, ancient. And at the far end of the hall, beneath banners that hadn't changed in 10,000 years, stood a small group of humans in plain gray uniforms. They looked out of place, fragile among giants. The Seraphids, beings made of living light, radiated beauty. The Vorn, metallic and cold, clicked with mechanical precision. The Teli floated in silence, their blue eyes burning with psychic disdain. And then there were the humans, breathing too fast, hearts pounding, faces flushed with emotion they didn't bother to hide. The Seraphid speaker raised a slender hand. "Humanity of Saul," she began, her tone dripping with condescension, "this council has reviewed your petition for expansion. Again." The hall rippled with quiet laughter. Ambassador Rhea Morgan stood at the center podium. She was short, with silver hair and tired eyes that had seen too much war. She bowed slightly, then said, "Yes, we're asking for recognition of our colonies beyond the outer rim. They're already thriving." The Vorn leader leaned forward, metal grinding softly. "Illegal settlements, you mean? You humans breed like spores. You have no understanding of balance or restraint." Rhea smiled faintly. "We understand survival." "Survival?" a Teli hissed telepathically, the voice echoing inside every mind in the room. "You spread chaos. Every system you touch burns. Even your own planet nearly died from your greed." The chamber filled with murmurs, cold, judgmental, certain. But the humans didn't flinch. Rhea placed a small hollow emitter on the podium. It displayed a rotating map, a vast sector filled with human outposts, cities, and trade routes. "That's the space you ignored for centuries," she said. "The wastelands, the uninhabitable zones. We built homes there." The Vorn leader's eyes glowed crimson. "You defy council order. You claim what does not belong to you." Rhea's smile turned sharp. "Everything we have never belonged to us. We took it anyway." The silence that followed was heavier than gravity. Then the laughter began again, cold, mocking, 1,000 alien voices echoing through the great hall. The Seraphid speaker leaned forward. "You are amusing, human, truly, but your kind cannot rule. You fight among yourselves. You die faster than our children grow. What gives you the right to sit among us?" Rhea didn't answer. She just stared up at the glowing Seraphid until the silence became uncomfortable. Then she said quietly, "Maybe that's why we deserve it, because we die fast and we still try harder than anyone else." That sentence hit the chamber like a blade. Even the T-Lie stopped their psychic hum. But the decision was already made. The council voted 12 against, none in favor. Humanity's request was denied, again. As the humans turned to leave, a Vorn general called after them, voice ringing with steel and mockery. "Tell your people this. The throne will burn any who dare touch it. Do not repeat the mistakes of the ancients." Rhea paused at the doorway. "Maybe," she said, glancing back, "it's waiting for someone who burns and keeps walking." Outside the council chamber, the human delegation walked through long corridors of alien crystal and gold. None of them spoke. The sting of humiliation was familiar by now, but there was something else this time, something sharper. Anger. Captain Mara Keen waited for them at the landing bay. She'd been banned from the council for disrespectful behavior, which in her case meant punching a Seraphid envoy 3 years ago. She was leaning against a bulkhead, arms crossed, her black hair tied back, her eyes fierce. "Well," she asked. Rhea sighed, denied again. Mara chuckled, low and bitter. "Of course. The moment we build something that matters, they call it illegal. The moment we stand up, they say we're dangerous." Rhea nodded. "They fear us." Mara's expression hardened. "Good." They boarded the shuttle in silence. Through the viewport, the alien capital shone, endless spires of light, floating palaces, fleets drifting like insects around a dying star. It was beautiful, yes, but it was old, tired, a monument to stagnation. Mara whispered, almost to herself, "They've been sitting in their thrones so long they forgot what standing feels like." Rhea turned to her. "You're thinking about it again, aren't you?" Mara met her eyes. "The throne." Rhea hesitated. "It's a myth." "So was flight," Mara said. "So was space travel. So was everything we've ever done." Her voice carried the weight of generations, of a species that had been underestimated since the beginning of time. Months later, the council would meet again, not to discuss expansion but containment. Human fleets were spreading faster than any prediction model could track. New colonies appeared in sectors the council had written off as uninhabitable. Mining stations popped up in dead systems. Terraforming drones remade barren planets. And in every message intercepted by alien intelligence, one phrase appeared again and again. "For the throne." The Seraphids laughed. The Vorn prepared sanctions. The T-Lie began experiments to predict human collapse. But none of them understood what was coming. The humans weren't just expanding, they were searching. They were following ancient coordinates, old myths, broken star maps whispered about by dying civilizations. They were looking for something no one else dared to seek. The Galactic throne. And the day was coming, sooner than anyone believed, when they would find it. And Sid. Space was silent, but Mara Keen could almost hear the heartbeat of destiny. Her ship, the Dauntless, drifted through a starless region known only as the Black Veil. Every alien chart labeled it as forbidden. The radiation, the gravitational distortions, the collapsing light, it all made navigation impossible. But humans didn't believe in impossible anymore. For weeks, Mara and her crew had been chasing whispers, coordinates carved into ruins, fragments of songs older than galaxies, records of dead civilizations, all pointing to one place, the center of nothing. She stood on the bridge, her hands gripping the rail, eyes locked on the dark beyond the viewport. "Any sign of structure?" she asked. "Negative," replied Lieutenant Ramirez. "Just more static and gravitational noise." The crew was exhausted. Supplies were running low. The radiation shielding groaned with every fluctuation. Still, no one wanted to turn back. They all knew what they were chasing. "The throne," Ramirez muttered, "if it's real." Mara gave a faint smile. "If it's not, at least we'll die doing something worth dying for." That was the human way, defiance wrapped in humor, courage hiding in sarcasm. Then suddenly the ship's sensors flared. A pulse, faint but deliberate. "Captain," yelled the helmsman, "we've got a signal repeating pattern 11-point resonance. It's artificial." Mara's heart skipped. "Track it." The coordinates appeared on the screen, a point within a dying nebula. It wasn't supposed to exist. The nebula's energy should have torn anything apart centuries ago. But there it was, a gravitational anomaly holding still, like the calm eye of a hurricane. She leaned forward. "Take us in." The ship trembled as it entered the storm. Lightning made of plasma streaked across the void, slicing through space like knives. Hull temperature climbed. Shields screamed. "Shields at 50%, Ramirez shouted. "Hold course," Mara said. Her voice didn't shake. "If it wants to kill us, it would have done it already." They pushed through the chaos, minute after minute of blinding light and roaring silence, until, suddenly, everything stopped. The Dauntless drifted into a calm pocket of space. And there it was. The Galactic Throne. It floated on a shattered platform of ancient stone, surrounded by the corpses of dead ships from every era. Some were organic, others metallic, all turned to ash by time. The throne itself shimmered faintly, massive, carved from dark crystal veined with molten gold. Its shape was simple yet terrifying, built not for comfort but command. The entire bridge went silent. "Oh my God," someone whispered. Ramirez crossed himself, a habit older than spaceflight. "It's real." Mara stepped closer to the viewport, her reflection pale against the endless black. "Transmit visuals to all Terran channels," she ordered. "They'll want to see this." "Transmission active," said the comms officer. "You're live across the network." Mara took a breath. "This is Captain Mara Keen of the Dauntless. We have found it. The Galactic Throne exists, and it's waiting." Across the galaxy, every screen lit up. In bars, in ships, in colonies, humans stopped what they were doing. Even aliens tuned in, unable to look away. The myth that had mocked generations of explorers was now fact. The council met within the hour, their panic barely hidden behind diplomatic words. "The humans have gone too far," the Seraphid speaker hissed. "They disturb forces beyond comprehension." "They must not touch it," growled the Vorn leader. "If they sit upon that throne, the balance will shatter." But it was too late for warnings, because humanity had already made up its mind. Mara launched a surface pod. Only 3 volunteered to go with her: Ramirez, her comms officer Lee, and a quiet engineer named Hayes. The pod burned through the nebula's thin atmosphere, landing on the cracked stone near the throne. Up close, the structure was enormous. Each step leading to it was the size of a shuttle. Strange glyphs glowed faintly under their boots, ancient warnings or prayers, no one could tell. "Radiation levels are stable," Lee whispered, scanning the air. "No traps detected." Mara laughed softly. Maybe they all thought it was cursed because they didn't have the guts to sit down. She climbed the steps slowly. The closer she got, the heavier the air felt, not with gravity but with presence, as if the universe itself was watching. Ramirez called out, voice tight with awe, "Captain, it's humming." Mara stopped. The throne was indeed humming, a low vibration, like a heartbeat echoing through the stone. She reached out a trembling hand. The surface was cold, impossibly cold. Yet beneath that coldness there was something alive, something aware. She whispered, "You've been waiting a long time, haven't you?" The throne pulsed once, faint but unmistakable. Lee gasped, "It's responding to you." Mara smiled, a tired, dangerous smile. "Good, because I've got a lot to say." She turned to her crew. "Tell Command I'll send more data soon. Right now, I want to know what happens when a human sits down." Ramirez's eyes widened. "Captain." "Relax," she said. "I've done dumber things." And with that, she took another step forward. In that same moment, light years away, every psychic-sensitive being in the galaxy felt a sudden tremor, a ripple through space-time. The Vorn sensors spiked. The Teli seers screamed. The Seraphid temples went dark. Something ancient had awakened, and humanity was standing at its door. The moment Captain Mara Keen touched the throne, the galaxy lost its mind. Across every network, alarms screamed. The Council broadcast an emergency declaration, calling the throne a Class Omega relic forbidden to approach or disturb. They accused humanity of heresy, blasphemy, and cosmic trespass. But the humans didn't stop. They couldn't. Because what had begun as a myth had become a promise. Within hours, human fleets gathered near the Black Veil. The Dauntless transmitted its coordinates, and thousands of ships answered. They came from every colony: miners, engineers, traders, soldiers, even smugglers. The banners of Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies flew side by side. For the first time in history, humanity was united. And then the aliens came. The Vorn arrived first, massive dreadnoughts shaped like claws, dark as obsidian. Their arrival bent space itself. Behind them came the Seraphid armada, their golden ships burning brighter than stars. The Teli fleets emerged next, ghostly and silent, their hulls pulsing with psychic energy. 3 of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, all aiming their weapons at one tiny world. The message from the Council was short and cold. Vacate the throne world or be erased. On the surface, Mara watched the sky flicker with the arrival of fleets. Her suit sensors displayed thousands of contacts, ships forming a wall of death around the planet. Ramirez's voice cracked through the comms. "Captain, they've surrounded us. We're trapped." Mara's reply was calm. "We knew this would happen." "Yeah, but they brought everyone." "Good, then they won't miss it when we win." Her humor was dry, but her eyes burned with something deeper: defiance. Humanity had always been told to know its place. That day, they decided to change where place meant. In orbit, the first shot came from the Vorn. A plasma beam sliced through space, hitting a Terran cruiser. The ship split apart, its crew vaporized in a flash of blue light. But before the debris settled, a dozen human ships charged forward, returning fire with railguns and missile salvos. "Strike wings, form up," shouted Admiral Cole from the flagship Resolute. "If we die loud." The battle began. Human ships darted through the void like angry hornets, too small to hit easily, too stubborn to retreat. The aliens had superior weapons, but humans had creativity, the kind that came from desperation. They used the debris fields for cover, overcharged their engines until they nearly melted, and coordinated attacks that seemed suicidal, yet somehow worked. Every kill cost them 100 lives, but they didn't stop. Because this wasn't just another war, it was a statement. On the ground, the throne pulsed brighter with every human sacrifice. The stone beneath Mara's feet trembled as if absorbing their courage, their anger, their will. She stared up at the sky, where light and death danced together. Lee knelt beside her, voice breaking. "We're losing ships every second." Mara's voice softened. "We always lose ships, but we never lose the reason." "What reason?" Mara looked toward the throne. "Because they said we couldn't." She turned to her crew. "Transmit this to all Terran frequencies." Ramirez blinked. "What do I send?" Mara smiled grimly. "My answer." Her voice went out across the stars, raw, human, unfiltered. "To the Council and every race watching, you call us invaders, children, savages. You say we don't deserve a seat among you. Maybe you're right. Maybe we don't. But the throne doesn't belong to the old. It belongs to whoever's brave enough to claim it." She paused, the sound of distant explosions filling the silence. "We are done asking for permission. We built our homes in the cold. We made friends out of storms. We don't need your approval, we need your attention." She looked up at the sky, where hundreds of Terran ships still fought like wounded beasts refusing to die. "If the throne kills me, so be it, but if it doesn't, then the galaxy will answer to us." The transmission cut, and the galaxy trembled. For hours the battle raged, planets cracked, fleets burned. The humans were outnumbered 20-1, yet they kept fighting. Even when ships ran out of ammo, they rammed. Even when hulls were torn apart, pilots used their escape pods as guided missiles. The aliens were stunned. No species had ever fought like this, not for conquest, not for resources, but for meaning. At last, Admiral Cole's voice echoed through the fleet's final channel. "Protect the captain, protect the throne, humanity stands." Moments later, his ship exploded, taking a Seraphid cruiser with it. On the throne world, the sky rained fire. Mara stood at the base of the ancient steps, surrounded by the ruins of what had once been gods. Ramirez and Lee looked to her, faces streaked with ash. "This is it," Ramirez said. "They're coming down." Mara stared at the distant lights of landing craft. "Then we don't wait." She began to climb. Each step shook beneath her boots. Her vision blurred from exhaustion and radiation, but she kept going. She could feel something calling her, a deep hum, like the heartbeat of the universe. At the top, she turned and looked back one last time. The sky burned red, the fleet screamed, and in that chaos she whispered, "If the galaxy won't give us a seat, we'll make one ourselves." Then she took her final step forward and sat. The light that erupted from the throne blinded every sensor across the system. The shockwave knocked ships from orbit. Energy surged through every Terran vessel, engines reignited, shields repaired, wounds closed. The aliens watched in horror as the impossible happened. The throne had chosen. And it had chosen humanity. When Captain Mara Keen sat on the throne, the galaxy stopped breathing. Every sensor across the warfront went blind. The stars themselves seemed to dim, as if the universe was holding its breath. A single pulse of golden light spread outward, faster than thought, washing over every ship, every soldier, every mind. Then came the silence. A silence so deep that even the sound of dying ships disappeared. And at its center, Mara sat unmoving, her eyes closed, her palms resting on the carved arms of the galactic throne. The ancient stone burned with molten veins of gold, snaking up her armor across her neck into her eyes until her pupils were no longer human. They glowed like two miniature suns. Ramirez fell to his knees at the base of the steps. "Captain," he shouted, "can you hear me?" No answer. Lee grabbed his arm, terrified. "We have to pull her out." But when Ramirez tried to move closer, a surge of light threw him backward, knocking the breath out of him. The throne was protecting her or claiming her. Above them, the battle in orbit faltered. Every Terran ship flickered with the same golden glow. Damaged hulls repaired themselves. Dead engines reignited. Pilots who had lost oxygen found air in their lungs again. "What's happening?" a voice cried over fleet comms. Then Admiral Cole's second-in-command shouted, "Power surge across all Terran systems. It's coming from the throne world." They didn't understand it yet, but they didn't need to. They only knew one thing: humanity wasn't dying today. Inside the light, Mara heard voices, not alien, not human, older, endless. Unworthy, unending, unfinished. The words weren't spoken. They appeared inside her thoughts like thunder. She gritted her teeth. "I've been called worse. You seek what you do not understand. You claim what you cannot hold." "I don't need to understand it," she said. "I just need to survive it." There was a pause and then laughter. Not cruel, not mocking, ancient and curious. "You burn, small creature. Even when the stars turn to ash, you burn." The light around her intensified. Her body screamed. Every nerve felt like fire. She should have died 1,000 times, but humans had always been stubborn about dying. "Why do you sit?" the voice asked. "Because no one else could." "Why do you fight?" "Because no one else would." "Why do you suffer?" "Because it's the only thing that ever taught us who we are." For the first time in eternity, the throne was silent. The galaxy waited, and then the voice whispered, not in judgment but in recognition. "Then rise, child of Earth." And the light exploded. Across the stars, every human felt it. On Mars, miners in red dust dropped their tools as a warmth filled their chests. On Titan, engineers looked up at the sky, seeing golden auroras shimmer through methane clouds. In far colonies that had never seen Earth, people wept without knowing why. Something ancient and alive was flowing through their blood. The Terran fleet roared back to life. Fighters dove through alien fire, impossible maneuvers executed with precision no computer could match. Frigates that should have been debris surged forward, engines blazing gold. And in that moment, humanity became something the galaxy had never seen before, united by will, not by order. The aliens panicked. Seraphid priests screamed in terror as their ships burned in holy fire. The Vorn commanders issued retreat orders, but their systems shorted under the golden surge. The Tli fleets tried to use psionics to resist, only to have their minds filled with human memories, wars, losses, triumphs, laughter, love. They saw flashes of rain on Earth's soil, the first child born after nuclear winter, the first handshake between enemies, the first human who looked up at the stars and whispered, "We'll get there." It broke them, because in that moment they realized what they were fighting: not monsters, not invaders, but the raw, endless will to live. Back on the throne world, the storm cleared. The air shimmered with warmth instead of death. Mara opened her eyes. Her voice echoed, layered with something vast and ancient. "Status report." Lee stared up at her, trembling. "You're alive." "Better," Mara said softly. "We all are." She stood, golden light still radiating from her skin. The throne behind her hummed like a heartbeat, alive once more. Ramirez pointed toward the horizon, where the alien fleets were retreating. "They're running." Mara smiled. "They should." She looked up at the sky, at the countless human ships glowing like embers of a new dawn, and spoke into her comms. "To every Terran out there, this is Captain Mara Keen. The throne has chosen. You are its heirs, you are its fire. We no longer kneel, we no longer ask, we stand." Her words spread across the void like a storm. The alien council watched in horror as human fleets pushed through what was once impenetrable defense lines. The Seraphid speaker whispered, "It accepted her. It accepted them." The Vorn leader clenched his metallic fists. "We told them not to touch the throne." The Tli oracle, her mind bleeding from the psychic surge, murmured weakly, "And now it belongs to them." On the throne world, Mara looked down at her trembling hands. The golden light faded slowly, leaving only faint cracks in her armor, glowing like veins of fire. She turned toward the dying horizon and whispered to herself, maybe it was never about who deserved it. Maybe it was about who refused to give up trying. Above her, the throne pulsed one last time, as if agreeing. The galaxy had been ruled by fear for millennia. Now it would be ruled by something far more dangerous: hope. The galaxy had not seen light like that in 10,000 years. From the frozen moons of the Vorn Empire to the crystal palaces of the Seraphids, the same golden pulse spread across the stars, silent, unstoppable. It rolled through space like a tide, bending energy fields and breaking ancient seals that had not moved since the First Age. Every being, from the smallest creature to the most powerful emperor, felt the same thing, a voice inside their mind whispering, "Wake up." And at the center of it all, Captain Mara Keen stood upon the throne. Her armor was cracked, her face was burned, but her eyes burned brighter than any sun. Around her, the throne pulsed, alive not as a weapon, but as a consciousness awakening from eternity. She heard it speak again, not as thunder this time, but as something gentle. "The balance has shifted, the era of stillness ends, judgment begins." She clenched her fists, "Then let it begin." Across the void, fleets tried to flee, but they couldn't. Their warp drives failed, their weapons jammed, their systems froze. The light that poured from the throne wrapped around every ship like invisible chains. The entire galaxy was forced to watch. A vision filled the skies, the image of a woman sitting upon a throne made of starlight. It wasn't a broadcast, not a hologram, but something deeper. Every species saw her differently. To some, she appeared as a human. To others, as a figure made of fire, shadow, or crystal. But the voice, that voice was unmistakably human. You called us reckless, savage, unworthy. Her tone was calm, but every word hit like a hammer. You made us beg for a seat among you. You mocked us for trying to rise. You laughed at our pain, our wars, our losses. But when we reached for the impossible, you trembled. On the Seraphid capital world, their high priests fell to their knees, wings dimming in shame. On Vorn homeworlds, machines paused mid-cycle, their processors whispering ancient warnings. The Teli seers wept silently as the psychic waves shattered their arrogance. Mara's image continued, her eyes glowing brighter. You forgot what it means to fight. You forgot what it means to hope. You built your kingdoms on fear and called it peace. You sat on empty thrones, waiting for permission from ghosts. Her hand touched the armrest of the throne. We never asked for permission, we built our own. The galaxies trembled, stars dimmed and flared again. Whole fleets began to drift as gravity shifted around them, not destroying but rebalancing. The throne was rewriting the map of existence. This is not conquest, she said, it's correction. Ramirez and Lee stood on the cracked surface below, staring at the golden storms above. Is she doing all this? Lee whispered. Ramirez's voice was hoarse. She is this. The throne chose her, but it's drawing from all of us, every life, every dream, every scar we ever earned. He looked at the sky, and for the first time in his life, he wasn't afraid. The council tried to fight back. The Seraphids launched solar lances, but their light bent harmlessly around the golden sphere surrounding the throne world. The Vorn unleashed their ancient doomsday machine, a black hole cannon, only to watch it collapse under its own gravity. The Teli attempted a psychic strike, and their minds recoiled in terror as they felt something looking back, billions of human souls staring through them, united by one shared thought: enough. And then Mara spoke again, her voice filling every ship, every mind, every planet. You wanted judgment, here it is. The throne flared. A ring of golden light expanded across the galaxy, erasing weapons, shutting down engines, disarming every army that had ever waged war. It did not kill. It reset. The powerful found themselves powerless. The enslaved were freed. In a single pulse, the old order of the galaxy ended. When the light faded, the silence was unbearable. Entire fleets floated, adrift and powerless. On countless worlds, rulers looked up and saw the same thing, the image of a human woman seated upon the throne, calm and unshaken. Mara's voice was softer now. The throne does not belong to conquerors. It belongs to those who build when others destroy, to those who keep going when the universe tells them to stop. Her gaze lowered slightly, her human side flickering through the divine glow. We were never perfect, but we were alive, and maybe that's what the galaxy needed, something that refuses to die. Then her tone shifted quiet, almost tender. To every human out there, we did it, not because we were chosen, but because we chose ourselves. The vision faded, the fleets drifted, and slowly the galaxy began to move again, quieter, humbler. On the surface, the throne's light dimmed. The storm clouds cleared, revealing a clear, golden sky. Ramirez and Lee climbed the steps, their boots crunching against the ancient stone. Mara, Ramirez whispered. She was still sitting, her armor cracked and glowing faintly. Her eyes were closed, her breathing steady. Lee placed a hand on her shoulder. She's alive. Ramirez exhaled shakily. Then maybe so is hope. Above them, the throne pulsed one final time, sending out a soft echo, not of command, but of peace. Far away, on hundreds of worlds, alien children looked up at the sky and saw it glow faintly gold. They didn't know what it meant, but it felt warm, kind. And in that warmth, a whisper spread across the stars. A truth no empire could erase. The galaxy had gods once. Now it remembers humans. The war was over. But the galaxy was silent, not the silence of peace, but the silence of shock. For the first time in known history, the Council no longer ruled. Their fleets hung lifeless in orbit. Their palaces floated empty in the void. The empires that once claimed eternity were now small and afraid, staring at a golden light that would not fade from the stars. That light came from the throne world. Captain Marakeen, or whatever she had become, sat quietly on the throne, watching the horizon burn with dawn. Her armor was gone now, replaced by a faint golden aura that wrapped around her like breath. She looked human again, but no longer fragile. Every heartbeat echoed like thunder through the ruins. At the base of the throne, Ramirez and Lee stood together. They had survived the impossible, but neither could find the right words. Finally, Lee whispered, "She did it." Ramirez nodded slowly. "Yeah, she did what no one ever could." He looked up, eyes full of awe. "She became it." The new light spreading across the galaxy didn't kill or conquer, it healed. Planets once barren began to breathe again. Oceans that had turned to acid cleared. Radiation storms ended. Even dead stars flickered back to life, burning with faint warmth. The throne wasn't just a weapon. It was rewriting the rules of existence, not through power, but through will, human will. And the strange thing was, no one resisted. After seeing what humanity had done, no one dared to. On the Seraphid homeworld, their glowing temples dimmed. The High Speaker gathered her people and looked to the sky. "For ages, we believed ourselves divine," she said softly. "But perhaps divinity was never still light. Perhaps it was fire." On the Vorn Citadel worlds, the machines came to a single shared conclusion in their endless calculations. Human unpredictability was not an error. It was evolution. The T'Lai, whose minds had once been cold and perfect, now saw flashes of emotion in their collective thoughts. Empathy, curiosity, even wonder. The galaxy had changed, and no one could deny it. A week after the Ascension, the first broadcast came from the throne world. The image was simple: Marakeen sitting upon the throne, her face calm, her voice steady. But her eyes, they carried both sorrow and strength. "To every race among the stars, this is not an empire. This is a reckoning." Her voice was gentle, but no less powerful than the light behind her. "We did not come to rule you. We came to remind you. For ages, you built walls, drew lines, and called it order. You created peace through fear and control through silence. But peace built on fear is only another kind of war." She paused, glancing down at her own hands, the faint gold still glowing beneath her skin. "We were the youngest race, the loudest, the most foolish. And yet, we were the only ones who remembered what struggle feels like, the only ones who never stopped reaching for something better." The image flickered briefly. Every transmission system in the galaxy struggled to handle the signal, but no one turned it off. "We won't force you to follow us. The throne is not a chain, it's a choice. Stand with us, build with us, and the galaxy will live again. Stand against us." Her tone darkened slightly. "And the galaxy will remember what we did to those who told us we couldn't sit." The transmission ended. And for the first time in millennia, the galaxy agreed on something. The age of humanity had begun. Ramirez stood beside Lee on the observation ridge overlooking the glowing plains. "She doesn't sound like herself anymore," he said quietly. Lee's gaze stayed on the throne. "Maybe she sounds like all of us." They both fell silent as the wind carried faint voices, not words, but echoes of laughter, songs, dreams. The energy from the throne hummed like a living memory. "She's not just leading us," Lee whispered. "She's carrying us." Ramirez smiled faintly. "Then the galaxy's in good hands." Far away, in the ruins of the Council's old citadel, alien leaders gathered in dim light. The Seraphid speaker broke the silence. "We spent 10,000 years guarding an empty seat, and now a mortal sits upon it." The Vorn general replied in his cold, mechanical tone, "Correction, not mortal, not anymore." The Teli oracle looked toward the stars, her eyes glowing faintly gold. "She carries the voices of billions. She is the galaxy now." There was no anger in their tone, only a strange peace. Because deep inside, every one of them knew it was right. On Earth, crowds filled the skies with ships and fireworks. The blue planet glowed brighter than ever before. Children pointed at the constellations, asking their parents if the stories about the woman who sat on the star throne were true. And the parents would smile and say, "Yes, she was human just like us." In the final hours before the next dawn, Mara stood alone on the platform. The stars above were clearer than she had ever seen. The throne hummed softly, waiting. She looked up, her voice barely a whisper. "We did it, didn't we?" And though no one answered, the wind carried 1,000 echoes, the voices of every human who had ever lived, every dream that had reached beyond death and darkness. She smiled faintly. "Then let's make it worth it." The throne's light flared once more, not as a weapon, but as a sunrise stretching across the whole galaxy. Planets, stars, and ships basked in its warmth. Species that had once feared each other now shared its glow. And for the first time since the dawn of civilization, the galaxy felt alive. A new order had begun, not ruled by fear, but by the one thing that had outlasted everything else: human will. And as the throne's hum echoed across eternity, a new legend was born, one whispered from star to star. The galactic throne was empty for millennia until a human sat on it, and the universe finally started living again.